James Mallard has pleaded not guilty to taking and driving away a motor vehicle without the consent of its owner. Yesterday, his defence counsel revealed that if Mallard is found guilty of this offence, he will probably be returned to Borstal or to prison. Defence counsel contend that Mallard would not have been apprehended for this offence were he not a person with previous convictions. Sergeant Atras, the arresting officer, was asked to describe the events that led to his confrontation with Mallard as he was leaving a local cinema.
Now, Sergeant Atras, you said that the defendant, James Mallard, just stood there silent.
Yes, sir.
How would you describe his manner after you spoke to him?
He became abusive, sir.
Yes. Now, at 10:25, you had no evidence that James Mallard was in any way connected with the disappearance of Dr. Cresh's car, but at 10:30, he accompanied you to the police station.
Yes, sir.
Voluntarily, you say?
Yes, sir.
Now, what time did you arrive at the police station?
Approximately 10:45, sir.
Yes. And what time did he make the statement?
2 a.m., sir.
So at the end of 3 hours, you had a signed confession.
The accused made a signed statement of his own free will, sir, in the presence of myself and Constable Bell.
Yes, but the statement was only 7 lines long. How long did it take to write?
A few minutes, sir.
What, 3 minutes?
Yes, sir.
And what was going on for the 3 hours that he was detained at the police station?
Well, I told you, sir. At first, the accused refused to help. I asked him to think it over, and he did. Then he made the statement.
What were you doing during those 3 hours? Intimidating him?
No, sir. I wasn't in the room at all. It was when I came back to the room he said he'd make a statement.
Yes. So he refused to answer any questions, you left him, and 3 hours later he volunteered a statement. The fact is, isn't it, that when you had him in the police station, you didn't even have enough evidence to arrest him. And yet at the end of 3 hours, over 3 hours, you had all the evidence you needed, didn't you?
Wasn't like that at all, sir.
Well, let me put it to you again. The accused went into the police station at 10:45 p.m., but it was not until 2 a.m. that you got your statement. Now, that's 3 hours. Now, did you interrogate him for the whole of those 3 hours?
No, sir. When we went into the interview room, I'd just begun to talk to him when I was called away. I was needed on another case.
Well, how long did that occupy you?
Oh, for 2 periods of about 30 minutes each, sir.
Well, that's 1 hour, so you were with the accused for 2 hours.
Yes, sir. But we were short-staffed at the station. I was needed on a third interrogation.
And when you repeated your accusation for the 4th time, did he make any reply?
Oh, yes, sir. He made a number of replies. He said it was a load of rubbish, that I was gunning for him, had nothing better to do on my night off, that finally I was bent and the biggest villain in Fulchester.
Now, Sergeant Atras, the word bent, that's a phrase used exclusively by criminals, is it not?
Oh, I wouldn't say that, sir. I use it myself.
Well, yes, but I mean, it's associated with criminal phraseology.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, in your evidence of what James Mallard is alleged to have said, there are a number of these phrases. I mean, in the statement, there is, I did crash his Renault, meaning I did the job. Is that correct?
Yes.
Then when you first saw him outside the cinema, James Mallard is supposed to have said, I'm not going to be booked on sus.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
It means arrested on suspicion, sir.
Yes, and I'm not having my collar felled. Can you help us there?
Yes, it's an old lags term, sir. It means hand on the collar, arrested.
A lax term, you said?
Yes.
Meaning a phrase normally used by criminals?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, when these expressions are recounted here in court, they cannot help but make an unfavourable impression.
Oh, I shouldn't think so, sir.
You said that all these expressions were used by James Mallard.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Atras, are you aware that James Mallard has passed an examination in the advanced use of the English language?
No, sir.
And are you aware that the reason he was released from Borstal training at the earliest possible moment is because his educational progress was excellent?
No, sir.
You see, I must put it to you, Sergeant, that James Mallard would use none of the expressions that you have attributed to him, but that you have invented them.
Not true, sir.
Does his grandfather use such expressions?
Well, yes. I mean, he's got...
Yes, what were you going to say, Sergeant?
No, I wouldn't like to say anything against him.
Oh, I'd be admitting his previous convictions. What were you going to say?
Well, he's got form as long as your arm.
Form as long as your arm?
Yes.
You're certainly very acquainted with these expressions, Sergeant. Anyway, the jury will have the opportunity of hearing James Mallard and making up their own minds. Now, to return to this 3 hours when you had Mallard on your own, did you not say to him, with your record, it would be easier for you to cough now, meaning confess?
I did not, sir.
And before you were called away the first time, did you not say to him, if you don't cough, I shall have to lean on you, my old handsome?
No, sir.
But you do use the expression, my old handsome.
I do sometimes.
You do use the expression, lean on you.
I did not say that to the accused, sir.
The accused mother, did you know her?
No, sir. She's a deaf mute. She can't speak.
Yes, quite so, but you are well aware of the accused's special attachment to his mother.
No, sir.
You see, Sergeant, I must put it to you that the first time you left James Mallard alone in the interview room, you said to him, if you don't cough, I shall have to lean on you, my old handsome.
No, sir.
Then you left him for 20 minutes, and when you returned, you said, thought it over yet?
Yes, I did, sir, but that was when I returned.
Well, I suggest it was after only 20 minutes.
No, sir.
Mr. Mallard will tell us that you said you want to think hard, Sunshine. Is that true?
Oh, I may have said that, yes, sir.
You want to think hard, Sunshine, otherwise we shall have to have Mumsy down here doing a little bit with the fingers, won't we? That is what you said.
No, sir.
I suggest to you that knowing his mother was a deaf mute, you decided to bring her to the police station in order to embarrass her and to obtain a confession from the accused.
No, sir.
And from the moment you had spoken to your friend Dr. Treshy, that you had decided that Mallard was guilty, hadn't you?
No, sir.
Come, you had no evidence that Mallard was guilty, so you talked him into making a statement.
I did not, sir.
In fact, one way or another, you intimidated him throughout the night.
No, sir.
What did you first say to him in the company of Constable Bell?
Nice.
Did you say, this one, Zizi, he's got form as long as your arm?
No, sir.
Did you use the expression form as long as your arm? But do you or don't you, Sergeant?
Well, yes, I do sometimes, sir.
Of course you do, because we've just heard you. Did you say, this one's easy?
Oh, no, sir. I wouldn't say that.
Why not?
Well, he's as cunning as that full of monkeys.
Sergeant, how long have you been a police officer?
24 years, sir.
Yes. And have you ever received any commendations in the course of your career?
Yes, sir. 7.
7. Thank you, Sergeant Atras.
Yes, you may leave the witness box, Sergeant.
Thank you, my lord.
That concludes the case for the prosecution, my lord.
Yeah, my lord, I call James Mallard. And where were you at 6:30 in the evening of the 13th of September?
I went to see Dr. Creshy.
Yes. Now, will you please tell the jury why you went and what took place?
Well, I had a pain in my back for some months. I work as a roof tiler, you see, and I thought it was muscular, a
Yes.
pulled muscle. But every time I went to see Dr. Creshy, he could find nothing wrong. So on the 13th, I asked to go back to the hospital, as I'd done before. But he said they could find nothing wrong either.
Yes. And did the pain remain?
Yes, sir. I'm not fully conversant with the term, but I think it's a psychosomatic illness.
Yes. Now, Mr. Mallard, on the evening of the 13th of September, did you also ask Dr. Creshy for a medical certificate?
Yes, sir. I was in agony every time I turned my back.
And did he give it to you?
No, sir.
And what did you do as a consequence?
Well, I asked to be removed from his list, sir. I said that would go for the family and the neighbours on both sides as well.
Yes. Did you say anything else?
Yes, sir, I said we'd had enough of him. The whole street knew about his treatment towards my grandmother.
Yes.
He did nothing to relieve her pain for weeks, sir.
And did you wish to cause him harm?
Not harm, sir. Financial loss. I mean, I was in such pain. If I'd have had my way, he wouldn't have had a patient left in Fulchester.
Yes. Now, Dr. Creshy has told us that he was taking steps to remove you and your entire family from his list. Is that true?
He shouted that in the end, sir. But I'd already told him we couldn't put up with him any longer.
Yes. Now, what were you wearing that night?
Jeans and a sweater, sir.
Yes. What colour were the jeans?
Red.
Now, what did you do when you left?
I had an appointment with my young lady outside the Capitol Cinema. I didn't feel like going, but, see, there was no way I could contact her. So I went. When I got there, she said it would take my mind off it. My back.
What would?
The picture.
Ah, yes. What was the film?
It was a rerun of Dr. Zhivago, a book by Pasternak.
Yes. Now, What time did you go into the cinema?
7:10, sir. We arrived during the adverts, just before the main feature.
Yes.
My lord, I must object. It is apparent that the accused is giving evidence of an alibi, but no alibi notice has been served by the defence on the prosecution.
Mr. Parsons?
That is so, my lord.
Well, then you cannot lead with this evidence.
With respect, my lord, I can.
How so?
Because my client wasn't given the alibi warning at the magistrate's court.
What? Yes, Mr. Golding.
Yes, I'm afraid that's true, my lord.
I see. Yes, well, proceed, Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, my lord. And what time did you come out of the cinema?
About 10:30, sir.
Yes. Now, before we discuss what happened when you left the cinema, I'm bound to ask you why it is that your young lady is not coming to the court to tell us where you were that night.
I refused to let her, sir.
Now, why is that?
She's married, you see. If she came, it would all be out, you see. Her husband doesn't know I see her. She's terrified of him.
Why is she terrified of him?
He's threatened to hurt the child if she leaves him, sir.
I see. Now, you realize that if you are found guilty of this offence, that you may be sent back to Borstal, or indeed even to prison.
Yes, sir, but it wouldn't make any difference, would it? I mean, with my record, things couldn't be worse. I was sent to Borstal for burgling Cresh's house, and I had every reason to cause him harm. If she came here, no doubt the learned gentleman would remind her she has a conviction.
She has a conviction?
Yes, sir.
I take it you do not wish to disclose her name.
No, sir.
Shall we call her Miss X?
My lord.
Mrs. X, my lord.
Now, what happened when you both came out of the cinema?
Well, as soon as I saw Sergeant Actress, I told her to go back and wait in the foyer.
Well, why did you do that?
Well, he's a police officer, sir. He always stops me, and it's very embarrassing in front of other people.
Was your friend visible to him?
Well, he was... don't know, he was watching people leave.
What, he was keeping watch for them, was he?
Yes, we were standing there watching people who came out. I told her to wait. I said if there was trouble, she should go home on her own.
Yes.
I said I'd keep him talking in case he'd seen her.
Did she have any reason to fear him?
Well, no, sir. But if he wanted to, he could use it to embarrass me.
In what way?
Well, his expressions are very crude, sir. I was with another girl once in the high street. He stopped me and he said, "Got your little bit of dick with you, have you, sunshine?"
Got your little bit of dick with you, sunshine? He said that to you in the presence of a young lady?
Yes, sir. There's one man in the witness box, another on the street corner.
Are you now saying that Sergeant Atlas intimidated you on a previous occasion?
Well, it's his manner, my lord. I mean, when one is with someone who doesn't know of one's difficulties, it can be embarrassing.
Well, that was the only reason you told your young lady to go back into the foyer.
Yes, sir.
Yes, 1 minute, Mr. Parsons. You said just now that when one is with someone who doesn't know one's difficulties, it can be embarrassing. Now, by difficulties, I take it you mean your record of previous convictions.
Well, not only convictions, my lord. I mean, other things. My family, for example.
Yes, but surely Miss X, I beg your pardon, Mrs. X, who, you say, herself had a conviction, must have known of your record.
Yes, sir, but he was quite likely to say anything. I mean, he's even said things about my mother before.
Your mother?
Yes, sir, but I'd rather not say.
Well, tell his lordship exactly what was said to you in the interview room.
Well, he said it's a sodding good job your old tart can't hear now, laughing boy. He's known for it, sir. I mean, he's even got a nickname in the force. They call him Charlie Chat.
Not take Dr. Crish's car.
No, sir. I didn't even know he had a Renault.
Why did you sign the statement?
I didn't want my mother brought down to the police station at that hour of the morning. She gets frightened, sir.
That was the sole reason?
No. That time I didn't think I had a chance anyway.
Now, can you tell us how these criminal expressions came to be in the statement?
It was dictated to me by Sergeant Actress.
I see. No further questions, my lord.
Mr. Mallard, my learned friend has pointed out to us that you've passed an examination in the use of the English language.
Yes, sir.
Was that for the use of your imagination as well?
Partly, sir.
And in the course of these proceedings, you've exercised your imagination still further. Mallard, you say you went to see Dr. Creshy because you suffered from a psychosomatic illness.
No, sir, I had a pain in my back.
But its origins were psychosomatic, you said.
Well, that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, none of the doctors could find anything wrong.
And what do you understand by the word psychosomatic?
Well, in this respect, a physiological pain of psychological origin, sir.
And what does physiological mean?
To do with the physique, flesh rather than thought. The opposite of psychological. I mean, I thought I might be suffering from a pain in my back because, well, I didn't like roof tiling, sir.
Do you think of yourself as being of a superior intelligence to Dr. Creshy?
Well, I wouldn't be indifferent to another's pain, sir.
Your pain?
And my grandmother's.
So you had good reason to dislike Dr. Creshy?
Yes, sir.
And Sergeant Atras as well?
Yes, sir.
Yes. You had in fact been arrested by Sergeant Atras while burgling Dr. Creshy's house 2 years ago, hadn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And you knew Sergeant Atras well?
I wouldn't say well, sir. I mean, under the circumstances, I avoided him when I could.
Well, you knew, for example, that he used certain expressions like my old sunshine.
Oh, he had many different expressions, sir.
Did you hear him say in court that he used the expression my old sunshine?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And you knew that being an honest man, if he was challenged, that he would admit it. Well?
I don't agree with you, sir.
Don't agree with what?
That he's an honest man, sir.
He also admitted saying he used the word bent and the phrase form as long as your arm, as you knew he would, didn't you?
I'm afraid I've lost you this.
In fact, when you made the statement, you deliberately used words that you knew you could later retract in the hope of incriminating.
I'm not with you.
I'm putting it to you that from the moment you saw Sergeant Atras, you knew the game was up.
Oh, a game? It wasn't a game to me, sir, was it? My liberty was in jeopardy.
As soon as you saw him, you knew you had to cover up.
No, sir.
If he hadn't been tired and extremely busy, I suggest to you that you wouldn't have got away with it.
Oh, he's never tired, sir.
Oh, come now. As soon as you saw him, you knew, you gave your mind as to how best to outwit him, did you not?
No, sir.
Why did you not say there and then, I've got a girl there in the foyer?
I've already said he'd have embarrassed her.
Was it Mrs. X who was with you when the sergeant is alleged to have said, got your little bit of dick with you?
No, sir, it was another lady. I'm finished with her now.
Come now. Mrs. X is a figment of your imagination, isn't she? Somebody you've invented between your arrest and this trial.
She's real.
Well, you said Mrs. X had a conviction. What is it?
Oh, dear me, Mr. Golding, is that a proper question?
Well, my lord, I'm cross-examining as to this young man's credibility. I'm seeking to establish as to whether he knows what the conviction is or whether it's just a figment of his imagination.
I don't mind answering, my lord.
Then what was Mrs. X's conviction?
Prostitution, sir.
I see. And would a prostitute be too embarrassed to come to court on your behalf? Is that likely?
A prostitute is a human being, sir.
Well, she can't be very human if she won't come forward to stop you being sent away.
Wouldn't let her.
Well, if she's in fear for the child, why doesn't she leave her husband and come and live with you?
He would follow her.
Well, why doesn't she seek the help of the police?
Well, with her luck, she might get somebody like Atras.
His remarks might upset her?
Yes, sir.
She is a sensitive plant, then, this ex-prostitute. I suggest to you that she doesn't exist at all.
She does.
Well, what's in the future, then, for both of you?
She'll wait for me.
In spite of her husband?
Yes, sir.
And she's an expert at disguising her real feelings, I suppose.
As a matter of fact, she is, sir, yes.
As good at deceiving as you. In fact, an expert at it. You could go on all day, couldn't you?
What, sir?
Lying.
The reason I wouldn't have her here, sir, is because she'd be subjected to this.
Oh, forgive me, I thought you kept her away because of what Mr. X might do to the child. Which is it?
Well, that was the first thing. The other was that I knew no convicted person had the same chance, no matter what he said. It's no use, I said, they'll tear you to pieces.
Do you mean the courts are bent?
I don't use words like that, sir. I prefer to say prejudiced against certain classes.
My lord, I only have one question in re-examination. Mr. Mallard, you have told us you have been before the courts on 7 previous occasions, and on each of these occasions you pleaded guilty. Now, on September the 13th, did you take and drive away Dr. Creshy's car?
No, sir, I did not.
Thank you, Mr. Mallard. Does your lordship have any further questions?
No.
I call John Ryan, my lord.
John Ryan, please. Come this way.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the Bible in your right hand and read aloud the words on the card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Now, Mr. Ryan, you are James Mallard's grandfather.
I am, sir, yes.
Will you tell the court what happened when Sergeant Atras came to visit you on the night of September the 13th?
Well, there was this knock on the door, sir, so I opened it and he stood there. I was very chatty, as usual, with how's James getting along, sir, and all that. Very familiar he is, sir, yes.
Yes, what exactly did he say?
Well, he said, hello, Johnny boy, how's me old handsome then? And he refers to James as laughing boy, sir.
Did he say why he'd come?
Oh, not at first, sir, he never does. I told him I didn't want nothing to do with him. Then he says that he's heard that Jimmy had got itchy fingers again.
What did you say?
No, I said, rubbish, sir. The lad's turned over an entirely new leaf. He swore to his gran on her deathbed that he'd never thieved nothing against her.
Yes, and what did Sergeant Atras say?
Oh, he said that a little bird had told him it was cars this time, sir.
The little bird had told him that James was stealing cars.
Yes, sir.
Now, what happened then?
Well, he put his foot in the door, sir, as though he wanted to have a good look round inside, but I wasn't having none of that, sir.
Yes. Did you tell him anything about James?
Yeah, I said he was at the picture, sir. But he wouldn't take no for an answer, so I shut the door on his foot, sir, and we had a bit of a to-do, sir.
Yes, and you were subsequently charged with assaulting Sergeant Atras.
Yes, I was.
With what result?
Well, no case to answer, sir. Dismissed. By rights, it was him that was doing the assaulting.
Yes. Now, did Sergeant Atras mention anything else about a car or cars?
Well, yes, he said that Qureshi wasn't just any old wog, he was a mate of his. And if he didn't get his car back that night, well, he'd come and breathe very heavy on Jimmy's.
Yes, can we just have that again? He said that Qureshi wasn't just any old wog, yes, but was a mate of his.
Yes, sir.
And that if he didn't get his car back that night, he, that is, Sergeant Atras, would lean very heavy on Jimmy.
Yes, sir, yes.
Now, what did you understand by that?
Well, that he'd take him down the station and turn him over, sir.
What, do you mean he'd offer him physical violence?
Oh, no, sir, no, nothing like that. He's much too clever for that, sir. No, that's just his talk, sir.
But how can you put pressure on someone just by talking?
Well, he goes nattering on and on and on. You'd think he was your best mate, sir. You know, he sort of never lets up. I don't quite know how to explain it, but he puts words in your mouth, sir.
Words in your mouth?
Yes.
Yes. Now, I understand a scene followed your attempt to close the door. What did Sergeant Atras say to you then?
Well, he said I was to blame, sir.
For what?
Well, for Jimmy going wrong, sir. He said he'd pinched him as a nipper, and that I should be behind bars, sir. And as he'd pinched him as a nipper, as it goes on, like he wouldn't do no good while he was living with me, sir.
Was there any truth in that suggestion?
Oh, yes, I suppose, my lord. Yeah, I've never been anything to anybody in my life, really.
Now, would it surprise you to learn that Sergeant Atras has emphatically denied making either of those statements?
Oh, I'm not surprised, sir. The way he talks, it's a wonder that he remembers half of what he does say himself, sir.
Yes, thank you. Oh, was there anything burning on the fire the night that Sergeant Atras was at the door?
Burning? Oh, yes, there was a dishcloth. It fell off the range onto the coals, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. No further questions, my lord.
Mr. Ryan, you realize that you are suggesting that a police officer with an unblemished record is lying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Me and Jimmy both, sir. If he can put anything on us, he will, sir. He wouldn't have come up to the house unless he knew he could say anything he liked, and if anything come of it, we wouldn't be believed.
And you are convinced that is the truth?
Yes, sir. The flat truth, my lord.
The case of the Queen against Mallard will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.